Welcome back to SBR Forum Videos. Week 1 is so close I can almost taste it, and that means we are back once again with my guy, Swingin Johnson, to give you some of our Week 1 favorite plays here for the first week of the NFL season. Swinger, how you doing, man? What have you been doing over the last couple of weeks? I can't lie, I've kind of missed you, man.
Buddy, the feeling is mutual. I'm telling you, I was thinking about you, Mr. Sharp. I mean, that name must be a tremendous burden on you.
It is.
What happens when you go cold? That's a bit of misleading information, don't you think?
It is. I take advantage of it as much as I can, but I cannot lie, it is a burden at times.
Well, I'll tell you what, speaking of deceptive advertising, my name is
Oh.
Swinging Johnson, so who am I to talk?
Yeah, that's true. That's true, my friend. Well, we have a lot to discuss here. We're going to kick it off with some of our best bets here against the spread for week number 1 of the season. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but I think enough has changed recently to where we might have some new plays or maybe even some tweaks on current ones. So, what do you got for us, man, for your against the spread plays here for week number 1?
Okay, so just to refresh the listeners and the viewers' memory, my two plays were Rams +3, which is now actually spiked to 4. Hope I'm not on the wrong side of that thing. They're at home against the Seattle Seahawks, and of course under 42 in the Titans-Bucks games. However, I've got two more, baby, and I'm with you, man. I just cannot believe the season is about to kick off. So let's get to it. All right, but I'm going to give you this caveat. Anyone who is all in on any team in week 1, I submit to you, is a jackass. I mean, we simply don't know how teams are going to mesh. New players, Jordan, new coaches, new schemes. We have an idea, of course, of who the good ones are and the bad ones are. But, what we need to do is rely on what these teams have looked like in the preseason, particularly the starters, and just take a gander at some trends that could give us some perspective. But for the love of God, be careful in week 1 and don't go crazy. All right, guys. Now that I've given you my lecture, the first one of 2 is a little chalky little number that makes me look like Joe Q Public. But you know what, Jordan? Even the squares win sometimes, which is why I'm laying it and liking it on the road with the Packers over the Bears. Now, if you were sharp and you were aware, you would have grabbed the Pack when the line opened and you would have gotten them at -3.5. But right now, we've been waiting around. It's spiked all the way up to 6.5. And as you know, Jordan, I don't like to lay the hooks on potentially critical numbers like 6. So, especially in the NFL. So I'm going to buy that baby down at 6. So I'm going to lay -6, -120. But here are a few stats. Green Bay is 9-2 ATS in games played on a grass field over the last 2 seasons. And Green Bay, of course, is 3-1 ATS against Chicago over the last 3 seasons. I'm not a fan of Jay Cutler, and I believe the Bears are going to continue to be a mess, while the Packers could very well be in the Super Bowl in February, despite the fact, of course, that Jordy Nelson is sidelined for the season.
Yeah, the Packers I'm real bullish on the Packers before the Jordy Nelson injury. Still, I think, really high on them as well. You forgot the most important stat. Aaron Rodgers just owns the Bears every time. It doesn't matter where the game is played. I think he's like 11-3 straight up lifetime against the Chicago Bears. So, yeah, I think that's one of the only games this week that I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this, that the public and the Sharps are definitely both on the same side.
Yeah, it's like when the moon and the stars line up, and naturally, the general rule of thumb is, favorites on the road is the square play, and home dogs are the sharp play. But I'll tell you, I think the squares and the sharps are aligning on this one. I think Green Bay is a good play, and like you say, Aaron Rodgers just has Chicago's number, and Cutler is just such a dick.
Speaking of road favorites being square plays, my play when we met a couple weeks ago was the Buffalo Bills +2.5 at home against the Indianapolis Colts. Now, Tyrod Taylor been named the starter. I'm feeling even better about this play right now. The Buffalo Bills 10-7 against the spread since 2010 as home underdogs, and with the defense that potentially I think could be top 5 in the NFL this season, I think a Colts team that has kind of a speculative defense here as it is, and even though they're loaded on offense, I think Buffalo here is a pretty good play at +2.5 at home. I know you said last time you like it. Do you still like it here now that we know the quarterback situation and everything else for this game?
Well, I'll tell you, the concern for me is Shady McCoy may not be suiting up for this one, and I think that takes a huge dimension away, especially from an unknown commodity like like the quarterback. But this is a pass game for me, to be quite honest with you. I think that I just love what Buffalo has done up there. I am a big fan of Rex Ryan, despite being a New England Patriot fan, and I think they're going to be very, very good. Andrew Luck, though, I mean, when the quarterback, the differences in quarterback ostensibly is just so great that, you know what, I can't pull the trigger on it, because I'm thinking to myself, plus 2.5. I mean, how many games are decided by just 1 or 2 points? I mean, yeah, you could run down a litany of games, but to me, if a live dog is really live when they're getting 3 or more, and the 2.5 just isn't pushing me over the edge.
I can understand that 2.5 numbers a little bit, and obviously the caveat here is Shady McCoy, and whether or not he's going to be ready or not. He's been doing some jogging. I've been tracking, at least as much as I can, and he is questionable to play week 1. That is the biggest concern. I will definitely run this one down to the wire and see, within a week or so, whether or not he's good to go, and what his practices are looking like next week, whether or not he practices or not. I think it's going to be a big indicator here. But anyway, you got any other spread plays for us? Or are you ready to move on to totals?
Yeah, I've got I've got I've got 2 side plays here, no totals. The second side play that I have is the San Diego Chargers at home minus 2.5 over the Detroit Lions. I've been kind of a fan of Detroit the last couple of years, and I've lost money because of it. And not only on the games, but for the love of God, I've been hooking up Calvin Johnson and Matthew Stafford in my fantasy football. And I know we're not supposed to talk about fantasy football, but I got to tell you, they drive me crazy. Calvin Johnson is never going to return to the Megatron of old, and I think Stafford is just a big kid with a big arm, not so bright sometimes. Chargers, a team on the rise, Jordan. I think signing Phillip Rivers to a 4-year deal in the offseason was definitely a smart move, because, when he's on, it is just all lollipops and sunshine in San Diego. San Diego, well, you know what? I'm gonna keep this little secret to myself for the next segment. But let me just say this, that I think Detroit is going to stagger through another season of mediocrity, which I guess is better than the abject failure of a few years ago. Nifty little start here. San Diego is 7-0 ATS in September over the last 3 seasons. So anyway, yeah, there you go. So we're going to go with San Diego at home minus 2.5.
Nice stat, Swinger, bringing it here on a Friday afternoon. I completely agree with you on this one. I think the Detroit Lions are no better than an 8-8 football team this year. I will also save my other Detroit Lions narrative here for the next segment. But for me, I think I like the Lions here as well. I like the Chargers here against the Lions. Phillip Rivers, speaking of fantasy football, won me a fantasy football championship last year. That's all I'll say about that.